Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rebel Roundup, our daily news show where we give you live, unscripted, on the air commentary of the newsiest news items of the day. I'm your host, Tamara Ugolini, and I'm joined by my friend, colleague, and co host today, our Montreal correspondent, Alexa Lavoie. Hey, Alexa, you've been filling in this week for both Sheila and myself. So thank you so much for doing that. How are you over there in Montreal?
I currently in Quebec City, so I'm taking a small break from Montreal. Sometime it feels great to not be in the middle of traffic pollutions but I would say that Quebec is starting to be a little bit like a baby Montreal. So for now, I'm taking it. I'm taking a little vacation of peace and nature.
Sounds good. Well, doesn't that sound nice, especially ahead of summer vacation and summer recess, which our parliamentary officials will be taking shortly. So we'll get into that. But before we get into it, I want to let everybody know that you can join us. We're streaming on a few different platforms. You can join us on the once censorious one, YouTube, where we have been remonetized. So if you'd like to chip in and support our work, you can do that on YouTube by giving us a super chat. And that's a $5 monetary donation or more. And then we'll read your comment or your tip or whatever live on air. So it's a great way for us to engage with our audience directly, know what you care about, know what your thoughts and feelings are, and also a great way for you to be featured on the Rebel News platform. We're also over on Rumble, the still and always unwavering free speech platform, and you can give us a Rumble rant over there. And then we're also streaming live on X. So depending on where you like to watch us the best, you can join us on any of those platforms. And we really appreciate anyone who chips in to help offset the costs of our journalism and continue to support our independence. And speaking of independence, we have an event also coming up, Rebel News Live, but it's happening in Red Deer, Alberta. And so it's going to be heavily focused on Western separatism and kind of the unprecedented challenges that Westerners are facing, especially under the newly minted Mark Carney Liberals. From their regulations and attacks on natural resources to things like infringements on free speech and the steady erosion of both local, municipal, provincial, etc. autonomy. And so this event will be taking place on Saturday, June the 14th at the Red Deer Curling Center. Tickets are on sale right now, and there's a general admission early bird special that runs until tomorrow. I don't know, we may end up extending that a couple of days, but I've been informed the tickets are selling pretty quickly, and I think already 200 have sold. So if you want to make sure that you secure a spot and do so at that early bird admission price, which is $45, you can do that at donegettingscrewed.com. We will have speakers there, like, of course, CEO and founder of Rebel News, Ezra Levant, Sheila Gunn-Reid, our editor-in-chief, constitutional lawyer Keith Wilson, political analyst David Legg, Dallas Brody, Corey Morgan, Derek Fildebrandt from the Western Standard, Rachel Parker, independent journalist, Cam Bexty, former Rebel correspondent, and now chief of the Countersignal, Dennis Modry. The list goes on and on. Any information that you would like, you can find at donegettingscrewed.com, including those early bird tickets. I think the pricing is only in place until tomorrow, Friday, June the 6th. It could be extended a couple of days. We will see. There's also a VIP package for anybody who wants to get a little bit more bang for their buck. So you can do that by going over to donegettingscrewed.com. And I mean, sadly, I won't personally be there, but I love coming to our Rebel News events because it's just a great way to meet and mingle with people that you hear so much about or from, or the people that support you and want to see kind of this independent journalism and independence in general further facilitated. It's a great way for all of us to meet and mingle and chat and get to know one another a little bit better. It's always a good time. I've always had a great time at our Rebel Live events, and I know, Alexa, you have too. So sadly, I don't think, Alexa, either of us will be there because it is very Western focused this time, and it's coming together very quickly. But I love our Rebel Live events and always like to make an effort to go.
I'm not going to be there, but I think it's really important when we are talking about separation that you are getting informed and you are getting out there and you make your voices heard, because it's not a simple decision. And I think you need to take part of it. You need to see all sides of the story. You need to see debates. You need to speak with a lot of people. I saw it here in Quebec for twice, in 1980 and 1995, where we almost got the 50 plus one to get separated from the rest of the country. And I would say that it's not just an easy decision. I think there is a lot of side of the story to be told about it. And so I invite people to get there and speak with the people about it.
That's right. And now, speaking of speaking with the people, we will also be running through some hot topics today, like Carney's throne speech, which just oddly passed in the House of Commons, a new border security bill that they've since proposed, family now apparently being a harmful word rooted in colonialism. Thank you, our state broadcaster. And so we'll kind of break those down throughout the next hour where we're live on air. And first and foremost, we'll get into the Liberal government's throne speech, which passed in the House of Commons without a vote, which is really, the way that Canada is being run right now. Let me just precursor whatever we discuss, is really, Canada is a political dumpster fire. The way that Canada is being run right now is so bizarre, so much skirting of, due process, of official processes, of things that we have held near and dear to our democratic little hearts for decades are just being casually disregarded. And so this, I would say, is another instance of that happening. So leader of the government, this comes from the National Post, leader of the government in the House of Commons, Steve McKinnon, would not say if his party had secured the support of other parties because this was done without a vote. Yet throne speech was adopted in the House of Commons Wednesday. And I don't remember the exact date, but Alexa, I think you were there during the throne speech, which was actually just King Charles, what is he, the third? He basically delivered Canada's throne speech, and you were there on the ground. Do you want to, for anybody who isn't familiar or would like to, kind of a flashback of that, what was the throne speech like?
It was really weird, I would say. A lot of people were present that day just to see the parade passing by, and we heard some bullet, like cannon, like going just before they started entering into the Senate. And so it was really weird because inside we were able to see people, politicians, but also native. But outside we had other native who were not invited, who were protesting against the king and what he was saying inside. And it was really divided into the crowd. The crowd was like either for abolishing the monarchy or they were loving the monarchy. So it was really special to see. That just represents who we are in Canada right now, like a really divided and polarized society where we have always like either I like or I dislike. And it's what I saw. And I was pretty surprised because when the king exited the Senate, he went to see the people in the crowd, and I was like, oh, he took the time to go and shake some hand and everything. He doesn't have to, but he did it, and a lot of people were really happy to shake the hand of the king. I kind of see him like really quickly, I would say, but yeah, mainly. I was able to ask a couple of questions to the Bloc Québécois, who say that they will not be there during the throne speech. I don't know if they did, because it seemed like they wanted to vote against the throne speech. And I'm pretty surprised that actually passed, because NDP say they will not vote for it, the Bloc, and obviously the Conservatives. So how come the throne speech passed?
You know, I've been kind of mulling over that question, and I think I would wager to bet. I mean, all the parties recognize that Canadians don't want another election. This is our second snap election in as many years. Well, just over 2 years. We've had two snap elections in the last 3 years. The first one was in 2021, when then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau campaigned on the wedge issue of COVID-19 vaccines and subsequent mandates that were implemented by his government. And so Canadians don't want another election. I mean, this costs us millions, if not billions of dollars to have and run elections. And Parliament breaks for summer recess in just a couple of weeks. And so I would say none of them want to continue campaigning once again after just finishing campaigning, after, sitting for just under 4 years after the last snap election. And they don't want to go and interfere with their summer vacation. So this is a really kind of sneaky way to say, you know what, we're just hitting the brakes. We're letting the status quo head on through the summer. And very likely this topic and situation of another election will be rehashed during the fall September session. I believe they come back September the 20th. That's my guess. But yeah, it's very clear that Carney doesn't have the support of the other governments. And the NDP claims that they're now no longer backing the Liberals, which was, a stark shift of where they were just mere 6 months ago, when they had this unofficial coalition with their supply confidence agreement with the Liberals. But of course, the NDP, it doesn't even have party status at this point. That's not to say they don't have a sway in the House of Commons, but they no longer have party status, I think, because of the way they were being led by former leader Jagmeet Singh. But anyway, getting back to the throne speech, which was delivered by King Charles III. And one thing that we wanted to point out here was his reinforcement of the state broadcaster, the CBC. Maybe we could just throw to that quick clip.
The French language and the Quebec culture are at the heart of the Canadian identity. They define the country that Canadians and I love so much. Canada is a country that respects and celebrates its official languages and Indigenous languages. The government is determined to protect the institutions that bring these cultures and this identity to the world, such as CBC, Radio-Canada. The French language and
absolutely ridiculous.
I know. I think it mainly why, and like everybody knows that it was not his speech; it was the Carney speech. But first of all, Carney know that the King visit was not well received in Quebec, so he had to do something. And he know that in Quebec, the culture and everybody is saying that Radio-Canada is kind of like the mother of Quebecer culture. I would say, no, it's untrue. But he had to do something to bring Quebecer to not be too pissed off of the visit of the King. And I think that part was mainly for saying, okay, we need to do something for the Quebecer. So we like make him saying something for saying to Quebecer, we love you, we respect you, and we are there for you, you know?
Yeah, and it's so strange that the throne speech passed in the House of Commons, because just yesterday we had NDP leader Don Davies saying that absolutely not. They will be voting no against it. Have a look at this.
And yet the throne speech doesn't even mention the words healthcare. You won't even find those words in the throne speech. There is no mention of non-market housing, cooperative housing, or housing for Indigenous people, some of the most acute needs in this country when it comes to affordable housing. And it foreshadows $28 billion in cuts that will absolutely hurt working people across this country. So we will be voting no against the throne speech, and making sure that the interests of working people across this country are reflected, and we'll continue to fight for those measures that we know that so many millions of Canadians and working families need in this country.
Yeah. So that didn't really come to fruition, but we don't really know because there wasn't a recorded vote. So we don't know who voted for and against. And that's another skirting of the democratic process. I mean, it's not that it's not allowed, but it's definitely a slap in the face to Canadians who would, in the majority, not support this government. And Liberal MP came on Power and Politics last night, or sorry, I think it was just last night when this did pass, and made excuses for why a recorded vote could not have been held.
If they weren't there earlier in the week.
Well, let's just be clear. The ministers that were in that particular meeting that you mentioned still voted. We have the ability to vote remotely. And it's important to stress, and I know you already did, but all of the votes that we were counting on earlier this week were delivered upon. We have 169 members, we have one speaker, and we had 4 members that were paired. And for those that don't know, pairing a vote is when we have a minister that's traveling out of country. They will bring another member from the opposition party with them to nullify the loss in one vote.
Right, so the math doesn't change because of the business of government.
So in all 3 votes we've had in Parliament so far, we have had all of the numbers that we were expecting, and we have had absolutely 0 people not vote. So it comes back to what you said, which is that this is a minority parliament. This is the math is the math, and we did have a vote earlier. We respect the wishes of Parliament. It was an amendment to the bill, a non-binding amendment. We respect that, and we move forward under that. That is what a minority parliament is supposed to do, and that's exactly what's functioning earlier this week and today.
Okay.
For a mere couple weeks until they go on summer recess and enjoy 2 months off of any sort of official parliamentary business.
When Canadians are right now, did you see how many crimes have been making headlines? It's just getting crazy. Crime rates in those big cities are just out of hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll get into that. That's our next topic, and we have a few different headliners to chat with you about. But I see that we have a Rumble rant from Clajan81, gives $10. Thank you so much. I have been trying to get attention on the UCP Bill C-14 that will allow online gambling. The charity model is the last in the country and is at risk with this legislation. Can we look into this? I'm not familiar at all. Maybe our Westerner and Alberta, I think she describes herself as the Alberta love child, our editor-in-chief, Sheila Gunreid. She probably is more familiar with this. I'm not. But anyway, I'll put this to her. She is traveling today, but I'll put this to Sheila and see if we can find out a little bit more about that. So thank you so much for that tip, and we will look into it. Before we get into some of the crime and the chaos descending on Canadian streets after 10 years of Liberal reign, let's do a quick ad break and then we'll come back for more.
Hey, what do you think about Alberta independence? What do you think about Alberta trying to get a better deal within Canada? Do you think Alberta should have the right to vote in a referendum to separate the same way Quebec did? There's a lot of things to talk about. Can Canada be fixed, or has the West tried that, done that, been there, and it's just not working? Well, we're going to talk about all these things in an amazing day-long conference in Red Deer, the heart of Alberta, on Saturday, June 14th. Go to donegettingscrewed.com to get your tickets now. It's going to be a full day. We'll start with a continental breakfast. We'll have panel discussions. We'll have keynote speakers. We'll even have a debate. I think that's going to be the highlight of it. David Legg, former advisor to the Alberta government, is going to make the case for Canada. Keith Wilson, lawyer, freedom activist, he was with the Freedom Convoy. He'll be making the case for independence. We'll have other people in the debates, a media panel, and people of different points of view, including different political parties. There's going to be a bit of a trade show there too. So we'll serve you 2 meals, but more than that, we'll serve you ideas you just can't get anywhere else. But it's coming up quick, and I promise you this event will sell out. There's only room for 1,000 people. And I know that there have been 1,000-person meetings about this subject all over the province. In fact, we had an event in Calgary that sold out in 2 days when we had only 350 seats. So don't be disappointed. Go to donegetingscrewed.com and get your tickets now. I'll be there. Sheila Gunn-Reid will be there. So many interesting people. Our friends in other media companies like Western Standard, Juno News, and Countersignal. It's going to be a great day. That's Saturday, June 14th in Red Deer, Alberta, all day long. Go to donegetingscrewed.com to get your ticket now. Don't wait. I don't want you to be locked out. It's going to be full. See you there. That's donegetingscrewed.com.
I love the Western kind of jingle in the background of that ad. That's such a fun one. All right. So as Alexa was mentioning there, crime, chaos, disorder, destruction, open air drug use, you name it, it's all proliferating on the streets of Canada in our major cities. We have this National Post article, how some Canadian cities are becoming more lawless than the US. Property crime is now higher in select Canadian cities than in any US equivalent. And I mean, the data is speaking for itself. And I think you don't even have to necessarily look at the data because Canadians are feeling it. Mm-hmm. You can see it, Alexa, in Montreal, what is happening on the streets. I see it in once a small, sleepy town of Cobourg, population 20,000 people, the disorder, the violence, and the unprovoked random nature of this violence is the most concerning part of it. That, there's no rhyme or reason often now, it seems, when these things will happen on the streets.
And you know what? In Quebec, we used to have we still have them, like the Hells Angels. You probably remember them. That was our kind of criminal gang. But right now in Montreal, they find out that Montreal have been separated in multiple districts where there is now street gang operating there. And some street gang have been shooting at the Hells Angels. Can you believe that? Young kids, not even 18 years old, went with guns to shoot on their property. And I know because there is a lot of people who are selling drugs in Montreal, and it's mainly like the drug cartel in multiple districts, and you don't mix it with each other. It's getting really dangerous over there with the rise of homelessness, the rise of people who are desesperated for food, for money, for everything. And we can feel it. And I would say Montreal have been always a bit unsafe since many, many years, but now it's just unmanageable, what is going on. And I would say that I'm from Quebec City, and I can see that Quebec City is changing. And I would say never in my life I would have thought that, because Quebec, it's the province of Quebec is a little bit more protected than the rest of Canada, just because we have more regulation. We try to protect our culture. We try to protect a little bit who we are as I would not call us a tribute, but our people is Quebecer is different, and now I'm seeing we are losing really slowly our culture, who we are actually, and I find that pretty sad, because we did protected for more than 400 years, and now we are seeing that it's not for anything that I see the West maybe wanted to separate, not just for the oil and gas, but also for protecting themselves from what we are seeing as crime rate, as mass immigration. But right now, I think like if we are not doing something with the federal level, when we are seeing more than 800,000 people who enter the country since 4 months, we need to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And this snapshot, as they call it, was a compilation done by the Fraser Institute. And it compares US and Canada crime rates. And I'll just point out a couple of the things that they highlight in the article. 2 Canadian jurisdictions, Kelowna, British Columbia, and Lethbridge, Alberta, now rank worse than any other urban area south of the border. And just ahead of that sentence, pardon me, they say Americans are still getting shot and murdered at higher rates than Canadians. But when it comes to theft, carjackings, and break-ins, figures show that some Canadian cities are doing worse than their American counterparts. And of course, that's Kelowna and Lethbridge. In 2022, Lethbridge, which is a small rural community, recorded 5,521 property crimes per 100,000 people, an average of 1 crime each year for every 18 residents. But this is a border city. This is a border city where we have mass unmitigated immigration coming into this country. And we're living the fallout of it. We're seeing it on the streets unfolding in real time. So I expect to only continue to see more of this under the Mark Carney Liberals, especially, they gave us the smoke and mirrors, then Immigration Minister Mark Miller, that we were curbing immigration or pausing it. But, the facts and the data of the last 4 months, as you and David Menzies discussed on the live stream just a few days ago, or maybe it was yesterday or Tuesday, that hasn't actually been the result of any sort of shift or policy change. It is just continuing on this skyrocketing trajectory. It is absolutely crazy. And meanwhile, here we have Toronto, Canada's largest city, looking for 3 gunmen in a fatal Lawrence Heights shooting yesterday. This comes from the CBC. The gunfire left a 31-year-old man dead, 5 others injured. And yet the Liberals be like, oh, it's those legal gun owners that we have to go after with our gun confiscation programs. And here we have, I highly doubt that these weapons were obtained legally. And I would wager a bet that they were smuggled here from the United States, as most crime, the weapons used in most crime are. So this is interesting. And also that the target of that shooting, who's said to be a gang member, John Doe, he was shot 6 years ago, apparently, which is why he was in a wheelchair to begin with. So this is gang-related violence that is only continuing to, as I've said, proliferate on the streets. Gun targeting lawful, legal, law-abiding citizens with gun confiscation programs isn't going to stop this. The Liberals don't seem to have any tangible plan to curb the actual crime and chaos that is unfolding and proliferating on Canadian streets. Instead, they're going to go after, the John Doe who obtained his guns legally and is run through the RCMP's registry every single day to make sure that he is still a lawful, law-abiding citizen of this country.
Oh, and by the way, the buyback program do not include illegal gun. So same if you have like a gun that is illegal, you can't just go and ask for money for it because they will not accept it. So this is ridiculous. We cannot say that Carney and those politicians who are currently in the government, like I'm saying, the one who have the power, you cannot say that they love Canadian and they love the country if they let that going on and they let Canadian dying because of the crime, because of what we are seeing. If you are not tackling it like firmly, you do not like your country and Canadian, because we saw it in El Salvador, how long it took for removing criminals from the street. We can do it, but they are not doing it.
Well, and the Toronto Police released this video yesterday that shows on March 7th, 3 suspects entered a pub and they started shooting indiscriminately, just like open fire on this pub. 10 suspects were arrested in connection with a series, not this one in particular, but a series of violent incidents, including this March 7th mass shooting. And the 4 guns that I would say, again, were illegally obtained and likely smuggled, as the data shows, in from the United States. All 4 of the guns have been seized. So warning to our viewers that this does depict, obviously, gun violence, but we're going to share this clip with you for educational and informative purposes. Yeah, so there's no sound of the clip itself, but you'll see here that they get out. Yeah, here it starts. Just unleashing open fire into a pub. Look at that. That is absolutely insane.
Sorry, I didn't see it because it didn't show on my screen, but I believe you that I'm not very surprised. It's almost every day that we are seeing like this kind of like story. Almost.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only proliferating. And the lack of transparency also from the police is something that I'm, increasingly concerned about. Like, who was charged? What were they charged with? Where were the weapons from? That would be highly relevant, pertinent information to share with the public that also further instills trust and confidence in the police force. And we repeatedly are just left in the dark about what is actually happening with policing in this country.
Because that's not a small gun, eh?
No,
that's a huge one. Like this gun, you need to go somewhere to buy it. You're just not doing like the transaction in the middle of the street, like with a small handgun. This is
a small weapon.
That's a huge. That scares me. That scares me so much, because how do you want me to protect myself? I cannot even have like a pepper spray because it's illegal to carry a pepper spray and I can go to jail. So I bought myself, like the small thing that scream like really heavy. But what do you do with that in front of like this big gun? It's just like, da, 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 da. It's just, like people will just look at me like I'm just shutting her like more with that sound.
We can't even legally carry bear mace or pepper spray.
No.
But you can order, I think there's something called dog spray. So if you're at a dog park and you want to carry some dog spray just in case something ever happens, I think that you can legally carry dog spray.
But you can't use it.
And you can go, but you can have illegally smuggled, illegally obtained weapons. Big guns. I don't know. I'm not up on my gun. I wish Sheila was here to comment on these guns because she would know exactly what they are. Sadly, and maybe that's my future endeavor to educate myself better on what makes and models of guns those were. But yeah, those, free reign. Hey, let's go into a pub and just open fire. And then the police will say, don't worry, we've charged 34 people on a string of shootings, but we're not naming them. We're not telling you where the guns came from. We're not telling you what happened to them. It's just absolute anarchy that is unfolding on our streets. Before we continue on, I want to get to this Rumble rant we have from Nana Awake, who gives $10. Thank you so much. Sorry, not all MPs sold out Canadians yesterday for summer holidays, while our country continues to be socially and economically destroyed. We're devolving to a third world at warp speed. Yeah, I don't think all MPs sold out. That is not what, maybe I wasn't clear there where I said, I think a lot of them, which it would wager to bet a majority of them do want to enjoy some summer recess because they voted to pass the throne speech, right? We don't know who voted. and who didn't, who abstained, who voted no, et cetera, et cetera. We know that there had to have been a majority to put that through approval. So there again is a lack of transparency and a lack of information for Canadians to know what exactly happened, because there was no recorded vote and it's all very hush hush. We'll play some parliamentary theatrics for the next, 2-3 weeks, and then we'll see you again in September. Canadians, have fun, is the sentiment I get from our government.
Before we are changing the topic, I just want to mention what we just learned today. So it's about Montreal, obviously, a Canadian convicted of terrorism in the United States in 2009, and who met Osama bin Laden before the attack of the 11th September 2001, was arrested in Montreal. And he's accused of making threats of death or bodily harms. And I would say that I'm not very surprised. And now they are trying to paint it as he was mentally ill. So now they say he will undergo a psychosocial assessment to determine his or her ability to stand trial. They don't even say if it is a he or she. That just show you how, again, justice is transparent with Canadian. Because if you remember, I did a report maybe a couple of months ago of a business receiving death threats during work hour. It was a Jewish business, obviously. And they received a letter saying that they arrested someone. And there is also a court order for not getting close to the business, but they were not allowed to know who the person was. So they reach out to me and say, how do I'm making sure that he's not coming into my business? I don't know who he is. And we receive now the name, but I don't have any other information to dig more on it. So I need to wait. And it's just ridiculous how the justice system and the government is not transparent with Canadian, and especially when we are seeing that. Though, how come it was in Toronto, in Montreal? How come with like all those charges that, and he did some jail before. He did some jail. So what they were saying is the man was convicted in July 2009 by a Minnesota court for providing material assistance to Al-Qaeda group. How come he was in Montreal? How come he received the citizenship, Canadian citizenship? I have so much question, and I'm pretty sure I will not receive any answer.
Yeah. Well, and the Liberals have put forward, this comes from Blacklock. I just want to throw to this new bill that's supposed to uphold certain measures at the border and enhance border security. So it's an amendment to the Canada Post Corporation Act. It's called Bill C2, an act respecting certain measures relating to the security of the border. And of course, it has massive sweeping implications for Canadians' privacy and constitutional rights at the same time. So it would give police new powers to intercept mail in transit under this bill introduced by Public Safety Minister that repeals privacy protections at the post office that date back to Confederation, that date back to the creation of Canada as a country. And so the Public Safety Minister, Gary, and his name is a mouthful. I'm so sorry if I butcher it. Sangari?
Ananda Sangari.
Thank you, Alexa. He said that he's not really concerned about infringing on the civil liberties of Canadians. Blacklocks has a quote here. Look, I've worked my entire life in the protection of human rights and civil liberties. And so he says that this bill is okay. He said it needed to have safeguards in place that were in line with the values of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And he fundamentally believes that they have struck that balance. So I guess we'll see. I was reading, traditionally, if there were kind of a suspicion that, mail was, it was suspicious and it was a security threat, then RCMP would go undercover as a mailman, or I guess you can't assume people's gender, as a male person, whatever they're called these days, because I can guarantee you it's not mailman anymore. They would go undercover as a mail delivery person, and then they would be able to arrest the person or inspect the mail, because you can't, under federal law, you cannot open someone else's mail. And so they would have to wait and deliver the mail to the person before it could be opened. But this new bill grants the police the power to open people's mail. So it's just a free-for-all now. And there has to be a way to strike that balance. And despite, reassurances from the public safety minister, which, if the Liberals' track record is any indication, isn't great with respecting our civil liberties and privacy, that it will disregard that completely. So we'll see if it actually facilitates any sort of a border security enhancement, and what the fallout of that will be for Canadians and their mail privacy.
I'm skeptical, and I do not like that, because this is an infringement on our privacy. And they have already the tool to scan packages who are arriving. Why do they need to open mail? Because at the end of the day, what they are looking for is drugs and guns, so that you can actually scan them and use a different kind of technology to see if inside the packages there is something. What I don't like is to give them the rights to, again, it's just speculation, I'm just maybe overthinking, but example, there is journalists or other people who are in the target, and to open mail to check what they are discussing into their letter or their private discussion. Or we don't use that much the mail anymore, but we never know if that can be a USB being sent to for journalism or anything like that. I'm really concerned about that. I'm really concerned also because we know that some people are on the list of being a conspiracy terrorists. So at one point, how far are we going to infringe the privacy of Canadians in order to reach a goal that they have already tool in place for reaching what they are targeting, as finding drugs, finding the guns, finding other things like that? But mail, privacy like exchange, I think it's going a little bit too far. That's my personal perception. And also, Mr. Ananda Sangiri should know what it is to not have a charter right. He's born in Sri Lanka, and he should probably respect the fact that Canadians have a really safe charter of right that have been a little bit override over the past, but we should all think about one thing. This is what makes sure that our right and freedom is not being trampled by the government. And if we are just letting them trample over it again and again and again, how we will make sure that we are safe and we have privacy.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, let's just stop the unmitigated immigration into this country. And what happened to the border czar? I'm wondering, we hired this new border czar months ago, and I haven't heard anything from them about enhancing border security or any of the measures that have been put in place or what they've achieved, other than, I think at the time that he was appointed, they were having conversations. So where did those conversations go?
And why we are not hearing anything about cartels. We know cartels is over there. We know they are operating. Can we know a little bit about the development, if there is cartels member being arrested somewhere, if they are dealing with them, or because yes, there is cartels, but there is also bigger organization, like criminal organization at the border. Why we are not tackling this issue?
Yeah, great questions. Too bad that we're not allowed into most of the press releases to ask them. Alexa, I see that you have a super chat fan. JP Power gives $50 and it's in French. Do you want to take the reins to read this one? Can you see it there?
I do not see it. Is it on the thread?
Yes, I can't even try. I am so sorry. And Alexa is always saying, oh, my English is not that great. I can't even try to speak French. It would be absolutely embarrassing. It's the pink one. If you scroll up just a little bit, you can see the $50 from JP Power.
My internet just actually showed it. Alexa, your English is excellent. Oh, thank you. You're too kind.
See?
It's a motivation because I would love to learn French and to speak French as you speak English. I visited Quebec twice, Montreal, Quebec, Belleuil, and Drummondville. Oh, you should go to Gaspésie next time. I love. And where are you from? So I'm originally from Quebec City. It's why my English is so, because in Quebec, I would say that there is, like, most of the population is not speaking any English, and it's getting worse if you go a little bit in the suburb around Quebec. I think it's mainly Montreal who you would find people who are bilingual. So since I didn't grow up in Montreal, I needed to learn really late. And when you have 26, 27 years old, you will never have the capacity to move your mouth correctly to not have your accent. So that's my handicap, I would say. But thank you for the chat. And I encourage you, French is all about practicing, and I know that same if you are doing and making some mistake, believe me or not, French Quebecer love that. Love the small mistake, especially when you use masculine instead of feminine. And I would say it's being fearless. Do not think about, I'm going to make a mistake. Just talk, and people will really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's
and maybe
funny.
Finding like a girlfriend or boyfriend that will help too. Like, that speak French.
That will help. And the masculine and feminine in the language that is just inherently there, that, you can't make it gender fluid or gender neutral, as so many are trying to do now. I'll just run through another super chat that we have. Cladgen, I hope I'm saying properly. Cladgen81, thank you again for your second one. Gives $5. We will not allow criminals to be identified, but we will force young women to testify in open court in cases of sexual abuse of a minor. It is backwards. Yeah. More and more people are starting to see that, and more people are starting to point it out. And because we have social media now, you can hear more about this absolute hypocrisy that is unfolding with our justice system.
And it's why they want to censor the internet, because they don't want you to see the other side of the story.
Exactly. We have another YouTube super chat. Politicians Never Lie gives $2.22. That 2 is my favorite number, just FYI. I love that. So thank you. Best looking hosts ever. Thank you for the truth. Well, thank you so much, Politicians Never Lie. I hope that is sarcasm. All right. We are running up against the clock, and I'm just going to get to our last topic, and then we'll end on some Tommy Robinson stuff, because Sheila is actually in the UK as we speak. And so she reported on Tommy's latest trial just this morning. So we will talk about that in just a moment. But first and foremost, we have your daily dose of cringe. And this comes from Juno News, where CBC has just released an animal pride documentary on incredibly queer raccoons and mushrooms. So Juno News says that they're attempting to prove that nature is queer. And you can see the documentary feature there. I'm not sure, I can't see if we're showing it on screen, but it says nature is coming out of the closet. And that's a good thing for all of us, you know, especially ahead of, I guess it's no longer Pride Week or weekend or the Pride March. It's no longer even Pride Month. We're in full Pride season now, if it ever really ends. Scientists observed same-sex behaviors in animals over 100 years ago, but their findings were never published. And so in swoops Canada's national broadcaster to make sure that that work is finally published.
You want to know something really interesting? Nature is not queer. And animals who are doing sex with the same sex disappear over the time because they are not being reproduced. So don't say that the nature is queer, because if the nature was queer, as they say, we will not have animal anymore. Okay? We will not have babies anymore. Okay? It will just been disappearing. Like, this is the evolution. And this is completely a bunch of cringe and woke who actually try to push the boundary and try to, I'm sorry, but poor child that are listening to this, I feel so bad.
I just want to highlight some of the things. Like, you should go and read this article and probably watch this if you can access it, because it's pretty funny. It's a 1-hour episode of The Nature of Things, of course. I think that was originally David Suzuki's, maybe it still is David Suzuki's doings, but it highlighted several animals and plants that they claim exhibit queer behavior, seeking to oppose the belief that homosexuality is unnatural. And it follows someone named Connell Bradwell, who's a wildlife biologist, who describes himself, of course, as very gay, who claims that while he was studying orcas, he observed same-sex behavior between two males. Another person is Jalen Bastos, an urban ecologist and a drag queen, who goes by the name of Batty Banks, to explain that certain kinds of mushrooms have been discovered to have tens of thousands of genders, making them incredibly queer. And that there are 94 species of birds that are queer, raising the example of Canadian geese, who he contends engages in same-sex parenting, pair bonding, and sexual behavior, and also makes similar claims about raccoons. I don't know. This is just grasping for straws, I would say.
Queer mushroom? What do they mean by it? Like multiple gender? What do they mean by it? Because mushroom, it's either like female or male, but do they talk about like what they look like? Because of course, like, there is a lot of different shape and form of like mushroom, but that doesn't mean that this is different gender. This is just ridiculous, and I'm so sorry, because I study biology, and I disagree with what is written on this, because of course there would be like sexual activity that are gay, because you can see it with your dog. They were like in the moment that they are, crazy about doing sex, they would just go with everything, same your legs. That doesn't mean that they are asexual because they go to your legs. It's just because they just want to find something to have sex with. So it's happening all the time. Like, sometimes like they would just go for a male, but that doesn't mean that they are gay. That just mean that they just want to, F-U-C-K.
Yeah, the whole thing is pretty bizarre, but I guess, if you're preaching to the choir, you just really have to reinforce that concept. And I don't care, whatever you want to do, go right ahead. But this repeated indoctrination, targeting children, getting them to question their identity, sexualizing them instead of preserving their innocence and keeping these adult concepts and these adult topics, to a later date, or leaving it up to their parents to have these discussions with them, proliferating it in schools and in the media and all over town and parading around. And it's upside down world, and it's deviancy. And I, for one, am not going to promote that to my children. And I don't care what you do in your private life and your own time and who you want to be attracted to or engage with. Whatever you do in your personal life on your own time is absolutely none of my business. But when it becomes my business is when it affects my children and other people's children and vulnerable children who don't have a family or parents to protect them. And that's where I start to draw that hard line. But I mean, this coming from the state broadcaster, are any of us surprised at this point? I certainly am not, but it is funny to reflect on and laugh at.
Yeah, and I would say thanks to all the LGB who are speaking out and who are standing for the children, because we are seeing more and more of them speaking out and saying, like, let the children alone. And so thanks to them, because as I mentioned in the other live stream, I grew up in the LGBT community, and never in my life someone spoke about it before I was in age to speak about it, to understand what was going on. Same if I was aware of it. I was actually approached and told about it only when I was, I think, 17 or 18. That is in the age of understanding what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, you have a stronger concept of identity at that point, and you aren't as confused and clouded with emotions and hormones and all these things. Teenagers, young children, identity is struggling to find out who you are as a person. That is a real thing. And school counselors and teachers and the drag queen at your local library are not equipped to deal with the complexities of identity. And we should just let people be whoever they want to be and stop pushing rainbow ideology down their throat at every which turn. But here we are in Pride season, so we'll expect more of that. And going in the opposite direction is where you will find me. So anyway, I just want to quickly touch on this other topic that we had in the headline, which is a school board, and this also comes from Juno News. A school board is training their staff that the term family is harmful and racist. So you want to talk about identity issues, right? Like disavowing and instilling, putting a wedge between children and their families, and teaching people that family unit, your social safety net, which lies inherently in a strong family unit, is harmful and racist.
How it can be racist?
Absolutely absurd. Well, here, let's find out, because the Waterloo Region District School Board staff are being trained that the word family is a harmful concept rooted in white supremacy. This is called Dismantling Whiteness at Waterloo, at WO, which is the Waterloo Oxford, Words Matter talk. Family is identified as harmful by our racialized students because it implies positions of male authority and hierarchy, a nuclear family structure, which is not the same for everyone, and niceness. It asks for obedience, no room for questions or criticisms. I don't know. I guess no one's really met my kids, but they are certainly questioning and criticizing everything that I say. And it's hard to parent through, don't get me wrong, but those are qualities that I know are going to serve them well as they become adults. And an expectation to prioritize family needs and wants, sacrificing personal boundaries. I mean, this is just absolutely absurd. Prioritize family needs and wants, sacrificing personal boundaries. how I run my family, which I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to run yours, but we actually prioritize everybody's needs and wants, and we just have discussions to figure out what is the best one to like, what is the best thing for everyone. And maybe someone's not totally happy and the other one is, or whatnot. But this is about having conversations, reaching compromise, making things work, knowing that you can persevere through things that are hard or uncomfortable or unpleasant. And being part of a family unit is such a beautiful thing, because sometimes you have to sacrifice to see someone else be happy, and having that reversed and that ebb and that flow and that give and that take. And these are like very important qualities for people to survive in society to have. This is absolutely ridiculous.
And by the way, I think we are too comfortable and we have too much time here in those G7 countries to rethink about the family concept, because I travel in 70 countries. And I can tell you that over there, the concept of family is really strong. And their family is not collapsing. They don't have like multiple marriages. They just are happy family. They have a lot of child and they work all together. And I find that pretty special to see that it is the concept of family. It is from white supremacy, when actually family and the stronger system of family, it's overseas, where actually there is no much white people. And they are mainly people who believe in the role of a strong family system, because most of them, they are not rich. They need to work more. They need to be all together to make sure that the family is being well fed and that everything work.
Exactly. That is their social safety net. They don't rely on the government for handouts and to be there in times of need, because they have a strong family unit and that social safety net to fall back on when times get tough. Not the government, who we've seen is completely inept at delivering any sort of social services to people who are actually in need. And so this dismantling of the family unit is just creating more dependency on the state. And of course, the state and the Marxists want that. So I would say, when someone's telling you that the term family is rooted in white supremacy, and to dismantle the family unit because it's rooted in patriarchy, you can tell them where to go. Because at the end of the day, if you're in need, you know who's going to be there for you? Not the state. It's going to be your family. So keep those ties strong.
And other family.
And friends and other people who, you know, are your support network. So keep those ties strong, because maybe it's not always family for everyone, but there has to be someone other than the state in your life that you can depend upon. Anyway, thanks for coming to our therapy TED Talks. That is enough from us. We are going to end off on if we don't have any super chats or Rumble rants left to go through, we will just throw to you a quick Tommy video. This came out of the UK this morning. As I mentioned, our editor-in-chief, Sheila Gunn-Reid, is there on the ground reporting. He pled not guilty today and denounced the propaganda war that was wagered against him. So this is a 5-minute clip. Maybe we can just show some quick B-roll of it. And for anybody who wants to head on over to check out Sheila's coverage and gain some added context, you can do so at TommyReports.com, because this is a series and a saga of what has been occurring to Tommy Robinson in the UK, for things like publishing a documentary and continuing to uphold freedom of expression and free speech and freedom of assembly, et cetera, et cetera. So TommyReports.com is where you can go to support this work and learn more. And then here, I guess we'll just end on this unpublished update from Sheila. So you'll be hearing it for the first time. And we'll play this to end off the stream. And anybody who wants to learn more or support Sheila's coverage of Tommy's recent trial can do so at tommyreports.com. Thank you so much, Alexa, for joining me today and for covering for both Sheila and myself earlier on in the week. Really appreciate that. Thanks to everybody behind the scenes who makes this live stream possible, gets the links out to everyone, compiles all of the written components, and makes the ship run as smoothly as possible. We always appreciate all of your efforts, Efron, Olivia, behind the TriCaster, pulling up all of our B-roll and videos and having the visuals ready for our viewers. Thanks everybody who supported our work through a super chat or a Rumble rant. We will be back here same time and same place, different time tomorrow. So tomorrow the stream is going to be from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. I think we'll send out an email just to remind everyone about that. There's a scheduling conflict in the office. So we'll be live from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Friday, June the 6th. Don't forget to get your tickets if you would like to go to the Red Deer Rebel News Live event. That's going to be heavily focused on Western separatism. You can do that at donegetingscrewed.com. And we will end off with this update. You're seeing it here first, the first time from Sheila and her trip to the UK covering Tommy's latest trial. Thanks so much, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News all the way from Canada in rainy London, England. This morning, I sat down with citizen journalist and freedom fighter Tommy Robinson over breakfast, possibly his last free meal outside of prison walls, depending on how today's court hearing went. Spoiler alert, it went well. He's free for now. I'll tell you more about that in another video. But Tommy is facing new criminal harassment charges for confronting 2 journalists who photographed his children while he was on a private family holiday in Cyprus. They invaded his kids' privacy. Now he's the one on trial. Tommy's just come off a stretch in jail for civil contempt because he published a documentary the press didn't like. And now, with a real chance of being remanded into custody again, he took a few minutes to speak with us. Take a listen. Tommy, I just caught up with you in a cafe. Could be your last meal before jail again.
It's a better cafe than Tim Hortons for you Canadians. We have a full English. Your breakfast is awful.
You know, I won't argue. I won't argue. Give us a rundown of exactly what brings you back to court today.
Brings me back to court because journalists tracked down where I was with my children and family on holiday. They came, they photographed us in the hotel. But my problem was, for public interest, why did they put pictures of my innocent family members when they're fully aware there's threats of danger and death threats against them? Why did they give the location where we were? That resulted from, they done their article on the 5th. They basically framed me as the person behind the riots when there's no evidence of that. In fact, all the evidence is the total opposite. I wasn't even in the country when the riot started. I was calling for calm and peace the whole time. But then they run a headline that basically told the world that I was instigating and organising the riots. Now, this happened at the same time that Keir Starmer's government, the Labour government, who wanted to deflect any of the public anger that's against them for their policy failures in this country, they wanted to deflect it and blame it on me and blame it on ideology and blame it on the far right. Now, since then, so Keir Starmer's government says it was the far right. The Daily Mail then put me as the front page, blaming me. Since then, there's been in-depth investigations and studies by the police. There was no link to far right, no link to me, no links to anything. It was just angry people in towns and cities. And they're angry because refugees and migrants have been put into hotels, for example. They never spoke about why people were rioting. In Hull, which is a city where people rioted, a migrant left the hotel and committed an act of jihad and stabbed a British pensioner to death. In Tamworth, a migrant left the hotel. His name was Mohammed, and he raped a woman who was walking home. In Great Yarmouth, a migrant left the hotel and raped a woman. Across this country, migrants have been housed in hotels and have raped English women. So when this boiling point come after 3 young children were butchered to death, when that come, people come out in the streets with anger. But rather than address why they're angry, I got blamed, I got scapegoated. That resulted in death threats against my family. My mum and dad had to relocate from their home. There was so much going on. And the media have never had it turned on them. Yeah? Now, I act as a citizen journalist. So when they done this to me, the next day, I started doing my homework on them. And I contacted them and messaged them saying, you need to answer questions of why you've just endangered and located my family. They could have wrote the article without giving the location of where we were and without photographing innocent people, like family members. But they purposely, their motive was to cause me maximum disruption, maximum problems, maximum danger. That was their motive. It wasn't news. It wasn't news and it wasn't the truth. It was to scapegoat me and to endanger me. So I then got pictures of them. And what I asked them was, is it okay for me to come and ask you questions when you're with your family? And I made it very clear. I'm not going to show images of your family. I'm not going to give away your locations. I know where you are, because I found out within 24 hours where all three of them were. I said, I've got questions to ask you on camera. Made it clear. I'm coming with a camera to ask you questions. Well, that's what they done to me. Right. Then I'm prosecuted when I was in jail, questioned when I was in jail. We get a result to say I'm going to be freed from jail. And the very next day, the police come in and issue me this court date. The next day, it's so blatant for everyone to watch. Now, what I believe they'll do today is try and gag me, which is what this is about. This case may take now till 2027, from what I'm being told.
To be gagged for 2 years.
Be gagged for 2 years, and gagged because I'm glad you're here. Okay, so thank you, Ezra. I'm glad you're here. We've got the Voice of Wales. We've got the difference is now there's citizen journalists that come from everywhere, yeah, which is why they can't win anymore. Because what they will do today. Everyone has these, yeah? What the mainstream media narrative will be today, and the headlines that will go everywhere, is Tommy Robinson causes fear of violence. Tommy Robinson harasses journalists. They found my family on a holiday. This is
in another country.
In another country. This is the second time they've done that on a holiday. They've come into my hotel twice and took pictures of my family on a holiday. They've caused danger to them. They have followed extremists and live streamed the Daily Mail, the same paper, live streamed where my family lived. The family had to move and leave their home. Yet they're saying that I've caused them fear of violence. Threats to kill my kids, threats to kill my family. That I've caused them violence by saying I'm going to question you with a camera. It's like, is this for real? And the sentence for this is 10 years in prison. But they come and they give me this condition. Today's cost $5,000. Yeah, this is what it is. It's financial terrorism. There's not been, since I started speaking out in 2009, since the start of my activism, I have not had one day where I haven't faced court prosecution. So I thought when I was coming out of prison this time, I thought, right, I'm going to get out of here, and for the first time, I'm going to have no case. But I told the prison officers, I guarantee you, they come and get me again. I don't know what for. And then literally, we got the result. I'm sitting there, and the officer comes in. He said, "Police are here." I just looked at him. I said, "I told you. I don't know what it's for, but I told you." And I thought they'd trump up a charge in order to remand me. Now, who knows? I might walk in here now. They might say you're remanded and put me straight in prison, and then hold me till 2027 for trial. But I haven't done anything. So what was important for me was that the public see, just like they saw with the film Silence. So right now, pinned on my X account and I've been given YouTube back. So Tommy Robinson Online, subscribe and like, yeah, share. I made a documentary. I think we've done pretty good. We've done it in 6 days. I haven't slept for 6 days. Okay. So, and we got a film out which details to the public. Here's what they've done. Here's how they've done it. Have a watch. Make your own mind up. Have I caused them fear, or have they caused my family fear? But the problem is, it's like 2025, and I can't ask a journalist a question. They're allowed to act as a propaganda arm for the establishment and government, harass people, persecute them, target them, humiliate them, lie about them, slander them. And the minute you turn the camera on them, well, you'll go in jail. Yeah. That is a communist country. It's a communist nation. That's not free press.
Well, and the charge is causing them fear. Well, fear is an emotion.
Yeah, causing them fear. There's no evidence of that. I don't make any threats. I don't say anything. I cause them fear. Yeah, fear of violence. So all they have to say is, "Oh, I was scared." What do you think my daughter was like when she was 13 years old in a swimming pool and men were running around asking for me, taking pictures? What do you think? Because due to this article that they put out, given our location, Muslims were making videos saying he's in this hotel, this is where he is. The threats were insane. And the person who faces prison here is me. They don't like citizen journalism. They have controlled the media for as long as any of us have lived, including our parents, and they have been able to tell you how to think about who and about who. And those days are gone because of these. So they don't want it, and they don't want the camera turned on them. And we'll continue to turn the camera on. So even now in this, I'll just say, watch my film. It doesn't matter what they do, because the monopoly that they had, they don't have anymore, because luckily we can do interviews like this, and luckily people can find us on X, thanks to Elon Musk, and find us on YouTube and find us on Rumble.
One last question before we head down to the courthouse. How's your family holding up?
How's my family? I would have loved to have come out. I promised myself when I was in jail that when I come out, I'm going to slow my life down and I'm going to spend time with my family. But because I come out and I knew I had 7 days till I was in court, I believe, this is what I believe they're going to gag me today. I don't know that, yeah? But I think their motives for these cases are always to tie me up and silence me. So I think today they'll impose conditions. So I didn't have a choice, but I've worked non-stop for 7 days. So I haven't really seen my family. I'm booking clear time in with them from next week. I've just had so much to do, which seems mad because I've been sat in a room for 7 months. And to be honest, I come out after 7 months in a room and I felt weird. All week I felt weird. But the family, yeah. My family have to. You watch that video. Like, I just can't believe that I'm the mum being prosecuted. There's no crime. There's no crime.
There's no crime to
journalism. Yeah. Uncontrolled journalism. That's the problem. We're uncontrollable.
And the process is the punishment for everybody, not you.
£5,000 spent a week on this video instead of spending a week with my kids. In London today, bail conditions probably imposed today. Back in court next month. Trial probably going up to 50, 60, 70,000 pounds. And then when you win, because remember, you come for the anti-Semitism rally, yeah? We come here last time and I won the court case. That cost £40,000. How much money did we get back? None. They won. So they win. And what it's about is the headlines today. What it's about is the headlines today. Yeah? We're here, but the mainstream media will all run with the same narrative and same headline, and they'll pump it across the country that and if you read the headline, you'll think I've terrorised these two men. I've terrorised them, threatened them, scared their families. No. Done the total opposite. Made it very clear to them that I'm not gonna do the things that they've done.
I flew 18 hours one way to be here in London because we can't trust the media in that courtroom behind me. They've already picked a side and they want Tommy Robinson back in a cell. You could follow our full coverage at TommyReports.com and support independent journalism that actually tells you the truth. For Rebel News, here in rainy London, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid.